Γεια σας φίλοι μου, καλώς ήρθατε! In today's lesson we're going to see 50 very common Greek verbs that we use every day. As you may already know, I make separate videos for verbs. I have already uploaded videos about the verbs είμαι and έχω, and there are going to be more videos about more verbs, of course, present tense and other tenses. So in this video we're just going to see the first person singular of each verb and also one example. We're not going to get into much detail, but I'm sure you're going to learn a lot of new things. So let's begin. Είμαι, to be. The most important verb of every language. It is also an auxiliary verb in Greek, and if you want to learn more about είμαι, you have to watch my video about it. Let's see one example. Είμαι καλά. I am fine. Έχω. To have. Another very important verb that is also an auxiliary verb in Greek, and I have a separate video for έχω too. Our example here is Έχεις ομπρέλα? It is a question. Do you have an umbrella? Number 3. Κάνω. I do or I make. A very important verb in my opinion. In Greek we don't have phrasal verbs. We don't combine prepositions with verbs as in English. And because of that, you will notice two things. First, a verb may have more than one meanings or more than one translations in English, depending on the context. Or you will need a whole different verb to express something that in English can be expressed with a different phrasal of the same verb. So, κάνω is a verb with many uses. It can be combined with hundreds of nouns, and depending on the context, it can mean many different things. Its basic translation is to do or to make. It means I do things, I make things. But there are so many other translations. It can mean cost, fit, have, take, imitate, commit, equal, and many more. And it is not the only verb that has these properties. But let's continue with our example and we'll talk about κάνω in a separate lesson. Τι θα κάνουμε σήμερα? What are we doing today? Πάω or πηγαίνω. These are two different forms of the same verb in the present tense. So the other tenses are common for these two forms. It means I go. Ο Ανδρέας πάει στο σχολείο. Andreas is going or goes to school. Έρχομαι. To come. Our example. Έρχομαι αμέσως. I'm coming right away. Or I'm on my way. I'll be right there. Λέω. To tell or to say. So Greek students that learn English often have trouble telling the difference between say and tell. Because in Greek there is no difference. There is only one verb that can be used for both purposes. And that verb is λέω. Εσύ τι λες? What do you think? What do you say? Another verb that has to do with speech is the verb μιλάω, which means I speak or I talk. Again, it's quite safe to translate both speak and talk as μιλάω in Greek. And of course, the second form is μιλώ. Με ποιον μιλάς? Who are you talking with? Μπορώ. So in Greek, μπορώ means I can. I am able to. In English, can is a modal verb and has some differences from other verbs. But in Greek, it is quite regular. We use the conjunction να after it, just like we use to in English, for other verbs of course. And after να, the mood we have to use is the subjunctive. But this is for other lessons of course. Μπορείτε να μου δώσετε μια πετσέτα? Can you give me a towel? Θέλω, which means I want. A very simple verb, nothing irregular here. We also use the conjunction να after verbs like θέλω and the subjunctive mood. And of course we can also use nouns after verbs like θέλω. Θέλω λίγο νερό. I want some water. Ξέρω, to know. The verb ξέρω has a lot in common with the English verb to know. There are only few small differences, but we can use it in general just like to know. For example, τον ξέρω αυτόν. I know him. Δίνω, to give. Also a very common verb. It can be combined with several nouns in many expressions and mean many different things. We will see many examples in the video about δίνω. For now, just remember that it is used mostly like the verb to give in English. Δώσε μου ένα μολύβι. Give me a pencil. Δώσε is the imperative mood. Περνώ, to take, to get. So, pay attention here to the spelling. Περνώ with alpha iota, not epsilon, but alpha iota and the accent on the second syllable from the last. Περνώ. You'll see why I say that later in this video. So, περνώ means to take or to get, but it can mean a lot of other things. For example, it can mean I buy, or I obtain, or I win, or I call someone on the telephone, or I receive. So, there are different verbs for all these meanings of περνώ, but in everyday life we use the most common verbs to express all these things more often. And of course, it might be easier for you to remember only one verb with many meanings than learning all these verbs when you are a beginner. Πήρε τα κλειδιά του και έφυγε. He took his keys and he left. In this example, it simply means take. Ρωτάω or ρωτώ. It's the same verb, just a shorter version of it. We'll see about that in grammar lessons. So, ρωτώ or ρωτάω means to ask. So, it has to do with questions. There is a different verb for ask for something, to take something. Ρωτώ or ρωτάω only has to do with questions. That's why ερώτηση, which derives from the verb ρωτώ, means question. Μπορώ να σας ρωτήσω κάτι? Can I ask you something? Ζητάω or ζητώ. That's the verb I was talking about before. Ζητώ means I ask for. I ask for something. I ask for permission. I ask for help. But it has nothing to do with questions. Μου ζήτησε ένα ποτήρι νερό. He or she asked me for a glass of water. Κρατάω or κρατώ. I hold or I keep. Η γυναίκα κρατάει μια τσάντα. The woman is holding or holds a bag. So, I won't repeat that in every verb we see, but again, κρατώ can mean a lot of other things. Φέρνω, to bring. Μαρία, φέρε μου λίγο χυμό. Maria, bring me some juice. Ακούω, to listen or to hear. So, ακούω means I hear, I have the sense of hearing, but it can also mean I listen to. We don't have different verbs for listen and hear, like in English. We only have the verb ακούω. Τα βράδια ακούω μουσική. In the evenings, I listen to music. Περνάω or περνώ. I pass or I cross. If you remember before, I told you to pay attention to the spelling of the verb παίρνω, which was written with alpha iota and the accent was on the second syllable from the last. Παίρνω. But don't confuse it with this one. It is very common, trust me, to confuse these two. This one is written with epsilon and the accent is on the last syllable. Don't worry, they have quite different conjugations, no common forms. The only thing that confuses students is epsilon and alpha iota. Πέρασα από το σπίτι σου, αλλά έλειπες. I dropped by your house, but you weren't there. Γυρίζω, γυρνάω or γυρνώ. Don't worry about the many forms here. All these multiple forms happen only in the present tense, so don't worry about that. It means I return, I come back, or I turn. And again, it has many other uses. For example, it also means rotate. Πότε θα γυρίσετε από τις διακοπές? When are you coming back from vacation? Πιάνω. To touch, to catch, to reach, or to get. Another verb with multiple meanings. Πιάσε με αν μπορείς. Catch me if you can. Μένω. To stay or to live. Μένω means to stay, to remain, but it can be used to show our place of residence, even if it is permanent. Πού μένετε? Where do you stay? Or where do you live? Βάζω. To put on for clothes or accessories, or simply to place. Θα βάλω τα ψώνια στο ψυγείο. I will put the groceries in the fridge. And the opposite of βάζω is βγάζω, take out, remove. Ο Θανάσης έβγαλε το σκύλο βόλτα. Θανάσης took the dog out for a walk. Αφήνω. To let or to leave. But pay attention, it is a transitive verb, so it needs an object. So we don't use it to say, I went away, I left. We have to use it when there is an object. He left his family. Yes, we can use it this way. But if there is no object, we use a different verb for leaving. Άφησέ με ήσυχο. Leave me alone. Or to be more literal, leave me peaceful or quiet. Ανοίγω. To open. There is not much to say about this verb. It's quite straightforward. It's mostly used like to open in English. Μην ανοίγετε την πόρτα. Do not open the door. Κλείνω. The opposite of ανοίγω, to close. Κλείνω το παράθυρο. I close or I'm closing the window. The only thing I have to say about these two verbs is that they also mean turn on and turn off respectively. We don't have different verbs for turning on or turning off electrical or electronic devices. We use ανοίγω and κλείνω. Κοιμάμαι. To sleep. Slight differences. Sometimes, as you can see in the example, it can be used instead of go to sleep or go to bed or fall asleep, but in general, it's the same thing. It means to sleep. Θα κοιμηθώ νωρίς απόψε. I'll go to bed early tonight. Περπατάω or shorter περπατώ. It means to walk, or to stroll, or to hike. It's an intransitive verb, so we don't use it with objects. So, Walk the dog does not apply here. Μην περπατάς τόσο γρήγορα. Don't walk so fast. Βλέπω. To see, to watch. First and most important meaning is see, but we can use it where in English we use watch. For example, βλέπω τηλεόραση, I watch TV. And our example, δεν βλέπω πολύ καλά, έχω μοιοπία. I can't see very well, I am short-sighted. Δεν βλέπω or δεν βλέπω means I don't see. So we don't need a verb like can to express that. We just use the negative form of βλέπω, δεν βλέπω. I can't see, I don't see. And the verb for to look at is κοιτάζω or κοιτάω. It means to look at or to stare. Our example, γιατί με κοιτάζεις έτσι? Why are you looking at me like this? Γίνομαι, to become or to happen. So, very common question, τι έγινε or τι γίνεται, what happened or what's happening, what's going on. And of course, όταν μεγαλώσω θα γίνω ζωγράφος. When I grow up, I'll be a painter. So, I will become a painter. Φτιάχνω, to make, to fix, to repair, etc. Φτιάχνω can be used for everything that involves some creation or some repairing. Σήμερα θα φτιάξω μουσακά. Today I'll make μουσακά. Αρέσω, to be liked. So we have to pay attention to the syntax of this verb. Αρέσω means I am liked. Someone else likes me. It's one of the verbs that get an object in the genitive case. Μου αρέσει means it pleases me. I like it. Μου αρέσει αυτό το τραγούδι. I like this song. So, αρέσει, third person singular. The subject of the verb is this song and not I. And the object of the verb, whom does it please, is μου. Αγαπάω or αγαπώ. Love. A very simple verb. It means to love and it is used just like in English. Οι φίλοι σου σε αγαπούν. Your friends love you. Παίζω. To play. It is used almost like in English for games, sports, or musical instruments. Let's see our example. Τα παιδιά παίζουν κρυφτό. The kids play or are playing hide and seek. Καταλαβαίνω. To understand. Not much to say here. Με συγχωρείτε. Δεν κατάλαβα. Excuse me, I didn't understand. Μαθαίνω. Another verb ending in eno. Μαθαίνω αγγλικά και ελληνικά. I'm learning English and Greek. It also means I find out. So, έμαθα ότι ήρθες. I found out, I heard that you're here, that you came. Τρώω. To eat. A simple verb. Its conjugation is a bit irregular, but we don't care about that right now. And it also has some figurative meanings, but we also don't care about that right now. Τρώω πολλά λαχανικά. I eat a lot of vegetables. Πίνω. To drink. Again, quite straightforward. Δεν πίνω ποτέ αλκοόλ. I never drink alcohol. Παθαίνω. To get. to have something happen to me. I've added the little stars here to indicate that this verb has no exact or even close translation. We will talk about this verb in a separate video in much more detail. For now, let's see our example. Τι έπαθες? What happened to you? Ρίχνω. To throw, to toss, to drop. Our example. Ρίξε μου την μπάλα. Throw me the ball. We can also use another verb in this sentence. Πετάω or πετώ. But this verb also means to fly or to throw away. So we can say ρίξε μου την μπάλα or πέτα μου την μπάλα. But the most basic meanings of πετάω are fly and throw away. Our example, μην το πετάς, το θέλω. Don't throw it away, I want it. Χρειάζομαι. To need. Χρειάζεσαι ξεκούραση. You need rest. Πρέπει. It is an impersonal verb. It means it must. So, we use it in the third person singular, πρέπει, always in this form, and after that we use να, the conjunction να, and after that we have to use the subjunctive, as always after να, but in the person that has to do what has to be done. For example, πρέπει να φύγουμε. We must go. Να φύγουμε, first person plural. We must go. It is required that we go. That's the most correct translation. Φεύγω. To go away, to go, to leave. So, if you remember from before, when we talked about αφήνω, I said that that verb was a transitive verb and it always needs an object. This one, φεύγω, is an intransitive verb, so it doesn't get an object and we can use it by itself. So, έφυγε, he left. Θα φύγω αύριο. I will leave or I will go tomorrow. Βγαίνω. To go out, to exit. Do not confuse with βγάζω that we saw before and it means to remove, to take out or to take off. Βγαίνω means I go out myself. So, for example, θα βγούμε μια βόλτα. We'll go out for a walk. And the opposite of βγαίνω is μπαίνω. To come in, to enter. Σκούπισε τα πόδια σου πριν μπεις. Wipe your feet before you enter. Ψάχνω. To search, to look for. So, if you lose something and you're looking for it, you use the verb ψάχνω. Or if you're looking for a house to rent or to buy, again, ψάχνω. Ψάχνω σπίτι στο κέντρο. I'm looking for a house downtown. Βρίσκω. When you find what you were looking for, you use the verb βρίσκω, to find. Very straightforward, nothing strange here. Δεν βρίσκω τα γάντια μου. I can't find my gloves. And finally, νομίζω. To think, to believe. We use it like think, but only to express opinion or a belief. For the mental process of thinking or considering, we use a different verb, the verb σκέφτομαι, that didn't make it to this list. Νομίζω ότι έχεις δίκιο. I think you're right. So, these were the 50 most common Greek verbs. There are so many verbs in the Greek language and we're going to see many of them in the future, but I think for now, these 50 are more than enough for beginners. I wanted to make this video as short as possible. I wanted it to be a list of verbs with not too many details, because there are going to be separate videos for most of these verbs in the future. So, I hope you found this list useful. If you have any questions, especially about the meanings of the verbs and their use and not the grammar, leave a comment below. Until then, I want to thank each and every one of you for your support, your comments, and for any kind of contribution you have made to this channel and its purpose. So, thank you so much, my friends. See you next time. Bye bye!